We're proposing a tax on excess profits made by wealthy corporations during the pandemic. Now, does the Prime Minister stand with billionaire profiteers, or does he stand with working people?
We stepped up on supports for workers, for small businesses, for families, and we will continue to work to ensure that we're supporting Canadians through this pandemic and beyond.
The NDP has a new demand for the minority Liberal government implement a temporary tax on excess profits to stop profiteering during the pandemic. So how exactly would that work and who would it affect? Jagmeet Singh is the leader of the NDP and he joins me now from Ottawa. Welcome back to the program, Mr. Singh. So I want to get right to that excess profit tax. How do you decide what an excess profit is?
Well, we look to the past. We've done this in the past during the time of the World Wars, when companies are earning massive profits at a time when other people were facing difficulties. There were ways to look at excess profit. So one of the ways we could do is, first we have to establish that while everyday families, working class people, small businesses have been devastated by COVID-19, there are some businesses that have enjoyed massive profits. We can point to some of the large corporate grocery stores that have enjoyed massive profits. Loblaws, for example, $1.6 billion of increased profits. Amazon has experienced massive profits during this time. So we look at either the past 3 years of what a normal profit would be, compare that to this time period in COVID, and look at what profit they've experienced, they've been able to make above and beyond what is normal. There's also a percentage. We could set a percentage point that any profit over this percentage point is subject to higher taxes. Instead of putting the burden on people that are struggling, the burden should be on those who have massively profited off the pandemic. I think that's a fair way to move forward.
To be clear, though, you haven't set that percentage yet, right?
No.
Go ahead.
Yeah, sorry. We're open to working with the Parliamentary Budget Office, working with the government on establishing what the best way to move forward is. In the past, what had happened is the government adjusted the rates to get the most efficient way of finding the recovery revenue that was needed. So we're open to finding the best way to go after that profit, that excess profit the wealthiest corporations have been able to make off the pandemic.
I do have more questions about how it would work in terms of who qualifies, but I'm curious, like, you want all that excess profit? I know you don't have a price percentage, but like, can you give me a ballpark here?
Yeah, certainly. So what I suggested is at a minimum, twice the current federal corporate tax rate would be a starting point. So 15% is the current rate, so at least 30%. So an additional tax on that profit, but we could adjust that. It might be more if need be. As we've seen in the past, the examples that we looked at, they were modified to achieve the right balance. This would be a temporary measure for COVID-19, but it would specifically get at the fact that we're seeing a K recovery, where some people are seeing a downward impact, working people, small businesses, small restaurants, but some of the largest, wealthiest corporations are seeing a massive increase in their wealth. And we've seen that with many reports saying the richest Canadians have increased their net wealth by $30+ billion. So that's what we want to get at, that those who have enjoyed the biggest profits, who have profited off the pandemic, should be the ones that have to pay for the recovery and should contribute their fair share.
Yeah, I mean, you know, there's that expression, though, the devil is in the details, and so many questions about how this would work. For instance, PPE manufacturers, right? Obviously, they have profited during the pandemic, but they are also, we all acknowledge, incredibly necessary right now. So would they, too, be subject to this tax that you're envisioning?
Well, the vision would be, you know, who has to pay for this? Because this is a difficult time we're in, and it certainly shouldn't be those families that have lost.
So it should be like mask manufacturers. You think taxing them is a right?
It should be those who've enjoyed massive profits, those who have been able to make a massive profit off the pandemic. If you profited off this difficult time, then yeah, you should contribute more. We'll find out what the right balance is, but those who've profited off of this difficult time should have to contribute. It shouldn't be those who've lost. It shouldn't be the small businesses that are afraid of shutting down. They shouldn't have to bear the burden. Some people are talking about a GST increase. I'm against that, because that would be something leveled against everyone, those who have suffered.
I'm not aware of any major party that is in favor of that. Like, I know that's been sort of in the broader public discussion, but I'm not aware of anybody in Parliament.
Idea, though, the reason why I'm opposed to that as an idea is because it wouldn't be targeted to those who've actually seen a profit. And I think it's fair. I think people would agree. In the past, we've seen the same thing. And this is not in some cases, it's to stop profiteering. But even if it's not about profiteering, if some group of companies, the richest Canadians, have seen their wealth go up, they should be the ones that have to contribute, not the people that have suffered.
You use this phrase profiteering quite a bit when you talk about this, and it does seem to me that you're suggesting a moral element in all of this. I'm trying to understand whether you think that it is like morally inappropriate that grocery stores, which understandably are seeing more business because people aren't out at restaurants as often as they were, and they were stockpiling and whatnot, that you think that there is something morally suspect about them making greater profits because people are buying more food.
Well, what's morally suspect is those same large grocery stores cutting the pay for workers while they're making a profit.
You mean cutting the hero pay, for lack of a better term? Yes.
Absolutely.
Rather than just cutting their base pay, yes.
Right. They've made massive profits. They should have continued with that support. They should have continued to support the workers who are putting themselves on the front line. But more so, I think it's morally wrong if the wealthiest in our country expand their wealth even more so during this time, which is what the evidence shows, that the richest Canadians have gotten wealthier during the pandemic. If that's the case, I think that's wrong. That should not be the case. What we want to see happen is the pain of this pandemic shouldn't be only on working class people and small businesses. Those who have seen massive profits should be the ones who say, hey, you've done well, you need to contribute.
At the same time, we need some of those businesses right now. We talk about PPE and grocery stores, and we have seen how essential they are. And will this not, to some extent, discourage them?
Not at all. This is to say that you've seen profits well and above what is normal. So profits would still be taxed at the normal rate, but those excess profits that only happened because of the pandemic, the excess profits that have happened as a result of this difficult time, they are in the best position to contribute. I don't imagine the Dominion worker in Newfoundland and Labrador who's striking because they barely get minimum wage and are struggling to make ends meet. That person should not have to pay for the pandemic, but the grocery store that's enjoyed a massive profit, for sure, they should be contributing more.
Would a new tax, and this what you announced today was part of a whole slate of measures that you'd like to see, would a new tax, be it a wealth tax, be it this excess profit tax, be enough to get your support moving forward on a confidence motion from the government? Is this sort of where you're setting your sights as we move forward?
Well, this is where we're setting our sights in terms of what should happen next.
Is it make or break for you? Yeah.
We know people are worried about the cost of all the measures and the programs, and we've seen the Liberal government be willing to cut the help to people in a pandemic, and we fought back and stopped them. So we're saying instead of cutting the help to people who need it, let's ask the wealthiest to pay their fair share. So this is absolutely crucial for the recovery. This is fundamental in moving forward. We need to make sure that the wealthiest are the ones that are paying their fair share, and it's not working class people, small businesses, those that are struggling. I'm
not sure I got my make or break answer, but we are more than out of time, Mr. Singh, so I will just say thank you very much for being with us today. Jagmeet Singh, leader of the NDP.
Hi, I'm Vashi Capellos, host of Power in Politics. See more of our show by subscribing to the CBC News channel or click the link for another video.